The vast darkness of space held many secrets and none more terrifying than the approaching Drakari warships. Commander Olivia West stared at the massive alien vessels through the viewport of the International Space Station. Her heart raced, but her face remained calm as befitting the leader of Earth diplomatic fleet. The Drakari had appeared without warning 3 days ago. Their ships, larger than anything humans had ever built, positioned themselves just beyond the orbit of Mars. Their technology was clearly advanced centuries beyond Earth capabilities. Olivia had been chosen to make first contact. Her background in xenolinguistics and military strategy made her the ideal candidate. She watched as the communication officer established a link with the alien flagship. The screen flickered to life, revealing the Drakari Supreme Commander. His skin was covered in iridescent scales that shimmered under the lights of his bridge. His eyes reflected starlight like polished obsidian Earth has received. Your transmission. Supreme Commander Olivia spoke clearly. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization. The translation software worked quickly, converting her words. The Drakari commander made a sound that might have been laughter. Your planet holds resources we require. The alien spoke his words translated into flat, emotionless English. You will surrender your world or we will take it by force. You have one planetary rotation to decide. Olivia maintained her composure despite the threat. We seek peace, but we are prepared for war. Our planet is not defenseless, she responded. We request you withdraw your vessels and establish diplomatic relations. The Supreme Commander, named Krazul, according to their intelligence, leaned forward. Primitive. Species always believe they can resist. They always fail. Your weapons are primitive, your defense is inadequate. Surrender is your only logical choice. The transmission ended abruptly. Olivia turned to her team. Their faces showed the same concern she felt. Contact the United Defense Council. Immediately she ordered, tell them the Drakari are hostile. We need to activate the Nemesis protocol deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility unknown to the public. Admiral Maya Foster received the emergency transmission. She stood in the control center of Earth's most classified military project, the War Carrier. Nemesis Maya had dedicated her life to this project. Ever since astronomers detected artificial signals from deep space 20 years ago, Earth had been secretly preparing. A coalition of nations had pooled their resources and best scientific minds to create a defense system that could protect humanity from advanced alien threats. The Nemesis was the culmination of that effort, a warship, unlike any other incorporating technology that most humans would consider impossible. Admiral, we have confirmation the Drakari have destroyed the Mars research outpost. Her second-in-command reported 300 scientists and support staff dead. They claim it was a demonstration of their power. Maya closed her eyes, briefly honoring the dead. Then her resolve hardened. Notify all crew members. The Nemesis launches in 2 hours. Throughout the massive underwater hangar, crews rushed to their stations. Engineers performed final checks on the quantum displacement drive. Scientists calibrated the gravitational disruptor weapons. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Dr. Samantha Kelly, the brilliant physicist behind much of the ship's revolutionary technology, approached Maya. Her eyes were red from crying. Her husband had been stationed on the Mars outpost. They need to pay for what they did, Sam said, her voice breaking. They will, Maya assured her. But we follow the plan. We give them one chance to withdraw. The United Defense Council held an emergency session. Representatives from every major nation gathered to decide Earth's response. The Drakari had made their intentions clear. They wanted Earth and they were willing to kill to get it. The Council voted unanimously. Activate the Nemesis protocol. Maya received the encrypted authorization. Nemesis rising was the simple message. It meant everything they had prepared for was now happening. Everything they had feared had come true in the diplomatic station. Olivia continued communication with the Drakari, buying time as the Nemesis prepared to launch. She knew her role was crucial. The aliens must not suspect what was coming. The Drakari sent images of their weapons destroying the Mars outpost. They showed footage of other worlds they had conquered. They believed these demonstrations would terrify humanity into submission. They were wrong. Beneath the ocean, the massive hangar doors opened. Water rushed in controlled channels as the Nemesis rose from its secret berth. The ship was enormous yet elegant. Its obsidian hull absorbed light rather than reflected it, making it difficult to see even when not using its stealth systems. On the bridge, Maya addressed her crew. Today, we fight not just for Earth but for the right of all species to exist free from tyranny. The Drakari believe us weak. They will learn otherwise. The crew, many of whom had trained their entire careers for this moment, responded with determined silence. They knew what was at stake. The future of humanity. As the Nemesis broke the ocean surface, its advanced systems already masking its presence from detection, Maya gave the order to engage the quantum displacement drive. The technology would allow them to appear anywhere in the solar system almost instantly. Their first target would be the Drakari fleet, positioned near Mars. Lieutenant Kate Morgan at tactical stations reported all weapons systems ready. The ship's unique armaments designed to overcome even the most advanced alien defenses were primed in orbit. Olivia received confirmation that the Nemesis had launched. She allowed herself a small smile as she prepared to deliver Earth's final message to the Drakari Supreme Commander. Krasul appeared again on screen. Your time has elapsed. What is your answer? Olivia stood tall. Earth refuses to surrender. We have attempted peaceful contact. You have chosen aggression. You were warned. Our planet is not defenseless. That warning was genuine. You have made a grave miscalculation. The Drakari commander seemed amused. Your defiance is pointless. Your destruction begins now. As the transmission ended, Olivia whispered. No, yours does. The Nemesis activated its displacement drive. In an instant, the massive warship vanished from Earth, reappearing in the midst of the unsuspecting Drakari fleet. The war to defend humanity had begun. The Nemesis appeared amidst the Drakari fleet like a phantom materializing from nothing. The alien vessels scattered in confusion, their sensors unable to comprehend how such a massive ship could suddenly exist where moments before there had been only empty space. Admiral Maya Foster stood calmly on the bridge as chaos erupted around them. The war carrier was the culmination of decades of secret technological development, a ship designed with one purpose: to defend Earth against threats from beyond the stars. Target their command vessels, Maya ordered, her voice steady, despite the enormity of the moment. Lieutenant Kate Morgan, the tactical officer who had helped develop the targeting systems, nodded. Her fingers danced across the control panel. The Nemesis weapon systems were unlike anything humanity had publicly acknowledged: gravitational disruptors that could tear apart enemy ships, targeted electromagnetic pulses that could disable alien technology, quantum shields that could absorb incredible amounts of damage. The ship shuddered slightly as the first weapons fired. The effect on the Drakari was immediate. A cruiser-sized vessel crumpled inward as if crushed by an invisible hand. Another lost power, its lights flickering out as the crew inside struggled to comprehend what was happening. On the main view screen, Maya watched as the Drakari attempted to respond. Their weapons, primitive by comparison, fired energy beams at where the Nemesis had been a second before. The war carrier had already shifted position, using its displacement drive to appear elsewhere. Within, the fleet communications officer Diane Miller monitored the enemy transmissions. They have no protocol for this, she reported. Their command structure is breaking down. They expected a primitive response with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. They cannot understand what is happening. Maya nodded grimly. For 20 years, humanity had presented a face to the stars that was deliberately misleading. Earth nations had continued to use outdated technology in their space programs, while secretly pooling resources to develop the technology that now powered the Nemesis. It had been a calculated risk, presenting humanity as less advanced than they truly were. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Nicole Taylor monitored the quantum displacement drive. The revolutionary system allowed the ship to briefly exist in multiple dimensions before reappearing in normal space. The energy requirements were enormous, but Nicole had designed a power core that channeled energy in ways the aliens could not comprehend. Their shields are calibrated for kinetic and energy weapons, Nicole explained through the intercom. They have no defense against what we are using, The Drakari flagship, massive compared to their other vessels, began to turn its main weapons toward the Nemesis. Maya recognized the threat. "Displace to coordinates Delta 3, she commanded. The war carrier vanished, reappearing behind the alien flagship. Lieutenant Morgan fired another volley of gravitational disruptors. The flagship shields flickered but held. These aliens had clearly encountered more advanced civilizations before. On the diplomatic station in Earth orbit, Commander Olivia West monitored the battle through encrypted channels. Her role had been crucial, buying time while the Nemesis prepared. Now she watched as humanity's hidden defender engaged the enemy that had so casually threatened Earth Supreme Commander. Krezul appeared on her screen again, his expression a mixture of rage and disbelief. "What is this deception?" he demanded. "Where did this vessel come from? As we stated, Earth is not defenseless." Olivia replied calmly. "You were warned. You chose not to." "Listen," the Drakari commander hissed something the translator could not process. The transmission cut off abruptly. Back on the Nemesis, Maya assessed the situation. They had destroyed or disabled several Drakari vessels, but the element of surprise was fading. The aliens were adapting their tactics, focusing their fire where they predicted the war carrier would appear next. Dr. Samantha Kelly entered the bridge. Her expertise in quantum physics had been instrumental in developing much of the ship's technology. "Admiral, I have an idea," she announced. "They are beginning to predict our displacement patterns. We need to become truly unpredictable." Maya nodded quickly. The scientist moved to an auxiliary station and began entering calculations. The ship shuddered as a Drakari energy beam grazed their shields. Lieutenant Morgan reported shield integrity at 87%. That was just a glancing hit. A direct hit could cause significant damage. Maya made a quick decision. "Prepare for multiple sequential jumps. Dr. Kelly will provide the coordinates." The Nemesis vanished again, but this time, instead of reappearing in a single location, it briefly materialized in 3 different positions within the Drakari fleet, firing weapons at each location before fully solidifying at the final coordinates. The confused aliens fired at all 3 positions, hitting nothing but empty space, or occasionally their own ships. From her station, Diane Miller continued monitoring enemy communications. "They are calling for reinforcements. A second fleet is stationed at the edge of the solar system." Maya had expected this. The Drakari would not risk their entire invasion force in the initial attack. Additional ships would be held in reserve. She turned to Navigation Officer Susan Davis. "How long until their reinforcements arrive?" "Based on their communication frequencies and standard light speed limitations, approximately 4 hours. Davis replied. 4 hours to defeat the current fleet before facing an even larger threat. Maya considered their options. The Nemesis was powerful but not invincible. They needed to thin the enemy numbers before the reinforcements arrived. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez approached the Admiral. Rodriguez led the fighter squadron housed within the Nemesis advanced craft that utilized the same displacement technology as the carrier. "Request permission to deploy fighters," she said. "We can create additional confusion. Draw fire away from the Nemesis." Maya approved the request. The hangar bay doors opened and a squadron of fighters launched. Each craft, small and agile, could appear and disappear around the enemy vessels, causing the Drakari to divide their attention and firepower. In the medical bay, Dr. Laura Wilson prepared for casualties. Though the ship had advanced defensive capabilities, the doctor knew this battle would not end without human costs. Several crew members had already reported to medical with injuries from systems overloads and minor impacts. Back on the bridge, Maya watched as the fighters engaged the enemy. The Drakari, clearly frustrated by their inability to target the Earth vessels, effectively began firing indiscriminately. Their formation discipline was breaking down. "Admiral Foster spotted an opportunity. Target their communications array," she ordered. "If we can disrupt their command structure, they won't be able to coordinate." The Nemesis fired precise bursts at the communication equipment visible on the exterior of several Drakari vessels. The effect was immediate. The alien ships began moving erratically, some colliding with each other as centralized control faltered. Dr. Kelly looked up from her station. "The Drakari rely on a hierarchical command structure," she observed. "Unlike our more distributed approach, they need constant direction from their leaders." Maya saw the tactical advantage this presented. Continue targeting their communications, she ordered, and prepare for another series of multiple displacements and want to end this before their reinforcements arrive. As the battle continued, Earth monitored the situation from afar. Nations prepared their conventional defenses in case the nemesis failed. The planet held its breath, waiting to see if humanity's secret weapon would be enough to save them from the Drakari threat. Maya Foster stood on the bridge of the war carrier, her eyes fixed on the enemy flagship. She had trained her entire life for this moment. The defense of humanity rested on her shoulders, and those of her crew. The nemesis moved through space like a predator hunting its prey. The true test of Earth's resolve and ingenuity had only just begun. The battle raged across the orbit of Mars. The Drakari fleet, now in disarray, struggled to counter the nemesis and its fighter squadron. Admiral Maya Foster watched the tactical display with intense focus. She knew the tide of battle could shift at any moment. 3 hours had passed since their initial engagement. 3 hours of continuous combat. The nemesis had performed beyond expectations, but the strain was beginning to show. Minor systems failures were reported throughout the ship. The quantum displacement drive was consuming energy at an alarming rate. Engineering reports we can maintain current operations for approximately 2 more hours. Chief Engineer Nicole Taylor announced, her voice tense. We need to consider power conservation if this continues beyond that time frame. Maya nodded grimly. They had disabled or destroyed nearly half of the Drakari fleet, but the alien reinforcements would arrive soon. They needed a decisive advantage. Lieutenant Morgan, our gravitational disruptors, are they capable of affecting larger objects? Kate asked the tactical officer. Morgan considered the question. Theoretically, yes. The weapons were designed to manipulate gravitational fields. The size of the target would require more power, but the principle remains the same. Why do you ask? Maya gestured to the tactical display. We are near the asteroid belt. If we could use the disruptors to accelerate some of those asteroids toward the enemy fleet, Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez, who had returned with her fighter squadron after a successful harassment mission, nodded in approval. A kinetic bombardment. Using the asteroids themselves as weapons, the Drakari would never expect it. Communications. Officer Diane Miller interrupted Admiral. I am detecting unusual transmissions from the Drakari flagship. They appear to be sending encrypted data packets toward the edge of the solar system. Dr. Samantha Kelly moved to Miller Station to examine the transmission patterns they are updating. They're reinforcements, she concluded. They are sharing data about our capabilities, our weapons, our displacement technology. Maya understood the implications. The element of surprise had been their greatest advantage. Once the Drakari reinforcements arrived with knowledge of the Nemesis capabilities, the battle would become significantly more difficult. We need to end this now. Maya decided. Navigation set course for the asteroid belt. Lieutenant Morgan, prepare the gravitational disruptors for maximum output. The Nemesis activated its displacement drive, vanishing from the battle and reappearing at the edge of the asteroid belt. The remaining Drakari vessels hesitated, clearly confused by this apparent retreat. On the bridge, Dr. Kelly worked with Lieutenant Morgan to calculate the precise gravitational adjustments needed. The math is complex but feasible, Kelly explained. We can create a cascading effect directing multiple asteroids toward their fleet formation. The Nemesis positioned itself among the floating rocks, some as small as cars, others as large as mountains. Morgan calibrated the disruptors to affect specific targets. Gravitational disruptors firing. Now, she announced. The weapons activated invisible forces extending outward. The targeted asteroids began to move slowly at first, then with increasing speed. The Drakari, seemingly unaware of the threat, continued their pursuit of the Earth vessel. Maya watched the tactical display as dozens of asteroids accelerated toward the alien fleet. Notify Rodriguez to keep her fighters clear of the impact zone, she ordered. The Drakari finally detected the approaching asteroids. Their ships attempted evasive maneuvers, but their formation was too tight. Their coordination, too, damaged by the earlier attacks on their communication systems. The first impacts were devastating. Massive rocks slammed into alien hulls, crushing metal and breaching compartments. Others exploded into fragments, creating deadly shrapnel that tore through multiple vessels. The asteroid bombardment continued for several minutes. When it ended, more than 2/3 of the remaining Drakari fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The survivors regrouped around their flagship, maintaining a defensive formation in the medical bay of the Nemesis. Dr. Laura Wilson and her team worked tirelessly. The fighter squadron had suffered casualties during their harassment missions. Several pilots had been injured when their craft took damage. Several more crew members had been hurt during particularly violent maneuvers of the war carrier. On Earth, Commander Olivia West received updates from the battle. She coordinated with the United Defense Council, preparing contingency plans. The Nemesis had proven effective, but the approaching Drakari reinforcements remained a grave threat. Supreme Commander Krasul appeared on her communication screen again. His scales had lost some of their luster. His eyes burned with fury. "You deceived us," he accused. "Your peaceful overtures were a lie." "We attempted peaceful contact," Olivia replied evenly. "You threatened us. You destroyed our Mars outpost, killing hundreds of our people. You demanded surrender. We responded accordingly." The Drakari commander hissed. "What is this weapon? This ship that appears and disappears? How has a primitive species acquired such technology?" Olivia smiled slightly. "We are not as primitive as we allowed you to believe. It was a deliberate deception, one your arrogance made easy to maintain back on the Nemesis." Maya received a priority communication from Earth. The United Defense Council had detected the approaching Drakari reinforcements. The second fleet was larger than the first, nearly twice the size. Almost 200 warships would arrive within the hour. Maya gathered her senior officers to plan their next move. The Nemesis, despite its advanced technology, could not defeat so many enemies through direct combat. They needed another approach. Dr. Kelly had been analyzing the data collected during the battle. She believed she had found a critical weakness in the Drakari communication systems. Their entire command structure relies on constant encrypted communication from their leadership. She explained, "If we could disrupt or take control of these communications, we might be able to create confusion throughout their fleet." Lieutenant Morgan considered this. "The targeted EMP weapons we have could be modified to operate on their specific communication frequencies." She suggested we would need to get close to their flagship. Maya weighed their options. A direct assault on the Drakari flagship would be dangerous. The alien vessel was heavily armed and now alert to their capabilities. However, if Kelly's theory was correct, they might be able to end the conflict without fighting. The reinforcements Admiral Foster made her decision. "We will engage the flagship directly," she announced. "We will use multiple displacement jumps to confuse their targeting systems, then position ourselves for a concentrated attack on their communication systems." The crew prepared for what might be their final engagement. The Nemesis power reserves were running low. The quantum displacement drive could manage perhaps 5 more jumps before requiring a full recharge. The ship had sustained damage, though nothing critical. Engineers worked frantically to repair what they could. Maya addressed her crew through the ship's communication system. "The Drakari reinforcements will arrive soon. We cannot defeat them through conventional combat, but we have identified a weakness. If we can exploit it, we may be able to end this conflict without further bloodshed. Remember what we fight for. The future of our world depends on what we do in the next hour." The Nemesis moved away from the asteroid belt, returning to where the remaining Drakari vessels guarded their flagship. The alien ships immediately began targeting procedures. "Initiate displacement sequence." Maya ordered target coordinates directly above the flagship. The war carrier vanished, reappearing momentarily above the Drakari command vessel. As expected, the aliens fired immediately, but the Nemesis was already gone, displacing again to a position below the flagship. This pattern continued, with the Earth vessel appearing briefly in different positions around the Drakari ships, drawing fire, but never remaining in one place long enough to be hit. Maya watched for the pattern she needed. The Drakari weapons had a recharge cycle, a brief moment when they could not fire. That was when they would make their move. Now she commanded. The Nemesis displaced one final time, appearing directly alongside the Drakari flagship at point-blank range before their weapons could recharge. Lieutenant Morgan fired the modified EMP weapons, targeting the communication arrays visible on the alien vessel's hull. The effect was immediate. The flagship went dark for a moment, its systems overloaded by the precisely targeted electromagnetic pulse. When emergency power activated, the Drakari vessel began broadcasting on all frequencies. But what it broadcast was not what Supreme Commander Krasul had intended. Dr. Kelly, working with Communications Officer Miller, had managed to insert a modified signal into the Drakari command network. The flagship was now broadcasting retreat and stand-down orders to all Drakari vessels, including the approaching reinforcements on. Her screen, Maya watched as confusion spread through the alien fleet. Some vessels began to withdraw, others maintained position, uncertain what to believe. In that moment of confusion, the Admiral saw their opportunity. The war had reached its critical point. The next few minutes would determine the fate of Earth. Chaos engulfed the Drakari fleet. Contradictory orders flooded their communication channels. Some ships began retreat maneuvers while others held position waiting for clarification. The carefully coordinated alien force had descended into disorder on the bridge of the Nemesis. Admiral Maya Foster watched the tactical display with intense focus. This was the moment of opportunity they had created. They needed to press their advantage before the Drakari could reorganize. Lieutenant Morgan, maintain disruption of their communication network, Maya ordered. We need to keep them confused. Dr. Samantha Kelly worked furiously at her station alongside Communications Officer Diane Miller. They had managed to infiltrate the Drakari command network, but the aliens were attempting to regain control. Their engineers were trying to isolate and remove the false signals. They are establishing secondary communication protocols. Miller reported. They are adapting faster than expected, Maya had anticipated. The Drakari were a spacefaring species with advanced technology. Their initial dismissal of Earth as primitive had been their mistake. But they were not foolish. They would not continue making the same errors. The main view screen showed the approaching reinforcements. The massive Second Fleet had reduced speed, uncertain about the confusing orders they were receiving. But they continued to advance. Their arrival would shift the balance of power dramatically. Navigation Officer Susan Davis spoke up. Admiral, I have an idea. The Drakari reinforcement fleet is passing through Sector 7 near Jupiter. The gas giant's gravity, well combined with its magnetic field, could amplify our disruption signals. It was a brilliant observation. Maya immediately recognized the potential. We need to reposition, she agreed. Prepare for displacement to Jupiter orbit. Chief Engineer Nicole Taylor interrupted from engineering. Admiral, the displacement drive, energy reserves are critically low. We have enough for perhaps 2 more jumps before we need to recharge. Maya considered their options. They could not defeat the reinforcement fleet through direct combat. Even with their advanced technology, the Nemesis was outnumbered and running low on power. Their best hope remained disrupting the Drakari command structure. Modify the plan. Maya decided we make 1 jump to Jupiter coordinates, use minimal power for positioning, then shut down all non-essential systems to conserve energy for weapons and shields. Nemesis vanished from Mars orbit, reappearing near Jupiter. The massive gas giant dominated the view screen, its swirling storms and powerful magnetic field creating a unique environment. The remaining Drakari vessels near Mars seemed disoriented by their sudden departure. Lieutenant Morgan worked with Dr. Kelly to reconfigure the disruption signals. Maya ordered. Use Jupiter's magnetic field to amplify our transmission. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, prepare your fighters for possible deployment. We may need to defend the Nemesis while we complete this operation. The bridge crew worked with focused intensity. They knew the fate of Earth depended on their success. The reinforcement fleet continued its approach, now less than 30 minutes from their position. In the medical bay, Dr. Laura Wilson treated the wounded from earlier engagements. The Nemesis had survived the battle thus far, with relatively few casualties, but the doctor knew the situation could change in an instant. She prepared her team for the possibility of many more injured. On Earth, Commander Olivia West maintained communication with Supreme Commander Krasul. She needed to keep the Drikari leader distracted while the Nemesis executed its plan. Your reinforcements will soon discover the same truth. Your first fleet learned, Olivia told the alien commander, Earth is not the primitive world you believed. We have technology and weapons your scouts never detected. We gave you the opportunity to withdraw peacefully. You chose aggression. Krazul appeared agitated. His flagship systems were malfunctioning. His fleet was in disarray and the humans continued to demonstrate capabilities he had not believed possible. Your deception will not save you, he insisted. The Drikari Empire spans dozens of star systems. We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. This temporary advantage will not last. Dr. Kelly called for Maya's attention on the Nemesis Admiral. I believe we can use the gravitational disruptors in conjunction with the communication disruption. We can create a gravitational lens effect that will amplify our signal throughout the entire system. All Drikari ships will receive our modified commands simultaneously. It was an ambitious plan, one that required precise calculations and timing. Maya gave her approval. The science team began the complex preparations, while the tactical officers monitored the approaching reinforcement fleet. Lieutenant Morgan reported, Admiral, they have adjusted course. They are now on direct approach to our position. They have detected us. Maya had expected this. The element of surprise was gone now. The Drikari knew the Nemesis capabilities and were adjusting their tactics accordingly. They would not underestimate the Earth vessel again. Status of the gravitational lens. Maya asked. Kelly responded, almost ready. We need 5 more minutes to calibrate the gravitational disruptors to the precise frequencies. They might not have 5 minutes. The lead ships of the reinforcement fleet were accelerating, clearly intending to engage the Nemesis before it could execute whatever plan the humans had devised. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez spoke up. Admiral, request permission to launch fighters. We can intercept their advance vessels. Buy you the time you need. Maya nodded quickly. Rodriguez and her pilots rushed to the hangar bay. Within minutes, the fighter squadron launched from the Nemesis. Using their own displacement technology, they appeared directly in the path of the oncoming Drikari vessels. The small, agile craft would be difficult targets, especially with the Drikari's communication network still experiencing disruption. On the main view screen, Maya watched as the fighters engaged the alien vanguard. The Earth vessels darted between the much larger Drikari ships, firing precision strikes at vulnerable points, then displacing before the aliens could respond. Rodriguez had trained her pilots well. They fought with coordination and discipline despite being vastly outnumbered. Dr. Kelly looked up from her station, gravitational lens configured and ready. She reported, we can now broadcast the disruption signal throughout the system. Mia gave the order. The gravitational disruptors activated, creating an invisible lens that focused and amplified the communication signal. Using Jupiter's massive magnetic field as a carrier, the modified commands spread throughout the solar system, reaching every Drikari vessel simultaneously. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The reinforcement fleet fragmented. Some ships began firing on each other, believing they were engaging Earth vessels. Others initiated retreat procedures. The carefully organized formation collapsed. On his flagship, Supreme Commander Krazul frantically tried to regain control of his forces. But the humans' disruption was too thorough, too precisely targeted at the hierarchical command structure the Drikari relied upon. Communications Officer Miller monitored the Drikari channels. They are in complete disarray, she reported. Their chain of command has broken down entirely. Individual ship commanders are making independent decisions without central coordination. Maya saw her opportunity. Open a direct channel to Supreme Commander Krazul. She ordered the RE. Alien Commander's face appeared on screen. His once confident expression now showed strain and uncertainty. What trickery is this? He demanded. How are you controlling our communications? You were warned, Maya stated simply. Earth is not defenseless. You have one opportunity to retreat with what remains of your fleet, or we will demonstrate our full capabilities. The choice is yours, Commander, but be aware our patience is at an end. The Drikari leader seemed to struggle internally. His empire had never encountered a seemingly primitive species with such hidden capabilities. The humans had systematically dismantled his invasion force not through brute force, but through superior tactics and unexpected technology. While Krazul considered his options, Maya received a private communication from Lieutenant Morgan. Admiral, sensors indicate the Drakari flagship is powering up its main weapons. They may be preparing for a final desperate attack. Maya had anticipated this possibility as well. Some enemies, when defeated, chose destruction over retreat. The Drakari might be such an enemy if the flagship fired its main weapons at this range. The Nemesis, with its depleted energy reserves, might not survive. The Earth vessel had won the battle, but victory remained precarious. The war for humanity's survival balanced on the decision of one alien commander. Supreme Commander Krazul stared at Admiral Maya Foster through the communication screen. His flagship weapon systems were fully charged, ready to unleash destruction upon the Nemesis. The human vessel that had single-handedly dismantled his invasion. Maya recognized the moment for what it was. A final test of wills. A moment that would determine the future relationship between humanity and the Drakari Empire. You believe you have won? Krazul spoke, his voice filled with barely contained rage. You have merely delayed the inevitable. The Drakari Empire does not retreat. We do not surrender. Maya met his gaze evenly. Consider your situation, Commander. Your fleet is in disarray, your reinforcements scattered, your communication network compromised, and you still do not understand the full extent of our capabilities. On her command, Lieutenant Morgan had quietly activated the targeting systems. The Nemesis' remaining weapons were locked on the Drakari flagship. Critical systems, propulsion engines, weapons arrays, life support. All targeted with precision. Behind her, Dr. Samantha Kelly whispered, We have enough power for one more displacement if necessary, Admiral, but our shields are at minimal strength. We cannot withstand a direct hit from there. Main weapons. Maya nodded almost imperceptibly. She returned her attention to Krazul. Let me be clear. Commander, she said, what you have witnessed today is only a fraction of Earth's defensive capabilities. We chose to use the minimum force necessary to repel your aggression. We can unleash much more. It was a calculated bluff. The Nemesis was running on reserve power, its weapon systems strained by the continuous battle, its displacement drive nearly depleted, but Krazul had no way of knowing this. The Drakari commander hesitated. The doubt in his eyes was visible even across species. He had been so certain of victory when the invasion began. His scouts had reported a primitive civilization barely capable of interplanetary travel. Instead, he had encountered a vessel with technology that rivaled or exceeded his own. What guarantee do I have that you will allow my remaining forces to withdraw? Krazul asked. You have proven deceptive. Maya allowed herself a small smile. The deception, supreme. Commander was allowing you to believe we were defenseless. Our diplomatic overtures were genuine. Our desire for peaceful contact was real. You chose aggression. We responded accordingly. On Earth, Commander Olivia West watched the exchange through a secure channel. She had played her part in this conflict, buying time with diplomacy while the Nemesis prepared. Now she held her breath as two military leaders determined the fate of both species. In the engine room of the Nemesis chief engineer, Nicole Taylor monitored the power reserves. They were dangerously low. If the Drakari attacked, they would have enough energy for either one final displacement or a single volley from their main weapons. Not both. The ship could not fight and flee. Throughout the vessel, the crew waited in tense silence. They had fought with courage and skill, but the final outcome remained uncertain. Admiral Maya Foster made her decision. She would not show weakness. Not now, when everything hung in the balance. Your empire has never encountered a species like humanity before, she told Krazul. We appear primitive because we choose to. We develop our technology in secret. We prepare for threats without revealing our capabilities. We offered peace. You chose war. Remember that lesson. The Drakari commander seemed to be receiving communications from his subordinates. His attention divided between the human on his screen and the reports from his scattered fleet. Maya pressed her advantage. You have two options, Commander, she continued. Order your forces to withdraw from our solar system immediately, or watch as we demonstrate weapons that make what you have seen today seem merciful by comparison. The choice is yours, but be aware, our patience is at an end. On the tactical display, Lieutenant Morgan noted movement among the Drakari reinforcement fleet. Many vessels were already retreating, moving away from Jupiter orbit, back toward the outer solar system. The disruption of their command structure had caused confusion, but self-preservation remained a powerful instinct. Krezul must have noticed this as well. His eyes narrowed. The Drakari Empire does not forget, Commander, he said. We will return. Maya nodded. Perhaps. But when you do, you will come in peace. Or you will not come at all. Earth stands ready, the tension stretched between them, neither willing to show weakness, neither willing to back down. The fate of two species balanced on this moment. Finally, Krezul made a gesture to someone off-screen. The energy readings from the Drakari flagship weapon systems began to decrease. The imminent attack aborted. The Drakari Empire will withdraw from this system, the alien commander announced. But this is not over. Human, this is merely the beginning. Your deception, your hidden technology, these have been noted. We will meet again. The transmission ended. Maya released a breath. She hadn't realized she was holding Lieutenant Morgan. Confirm the Drakari are actually retreating, she ordered. Not just powering down weapons, Morgan studied her readings. They are moving. Admiral, all remaining vessels are adjusting course away from Earth. Sensors indicate FTL drive signatures preparing to activate. They are truly leaving. A cheer erupted throughout the bridge. Relief and triumph mingled together. The crew of the Nemesis had accomplished what seemed impossible. They had defended Earth against a vastly superior invasion force in the following hours. Maya coordinated with Earth as the Drakari fleet retreated. The aliens moved, beyond Mars, beyond the asteroid belt, beyond Jupiter. Finally, at the edge of the solar system, their ships engaged their faster-than-light drives, vanishing into the depths of space. The Nemesis returned to Earth as a hero ship, though its existence remained classified to most of the world's population. The war carrier moved back to its underwater hangar. Its power systems depleted its crew. Exhausted but victorious, in a secure facility beneath the United Defense Council headquarters, Admiral Maya Foster met with Commander Olivia West and the leaders of Earth's nations. They had survived this threat, but all knew it would not be the last. Today we defended our world, Maya told the assembled leaders, but the galaxy now knows of Earth. The Drakari will return, perhaps not for years or decades, but they will return, and there will be other species, other empires. We must continue our preparations. The Council agreed. Resources would be allocated for additional defensive measures. The Nemesis would be upgraded, new technologies incorporated based on what they had learned during the battle. Earth would be ready for whatever came next. Commander West summarized the lesson learned by the Drakari. They ignored our warnings. They dismissed our capabilities. They will not make that mistake again. Nor will any other species that considers Earth an easy target. In the vast darkness of space, the Drakari fleet limped home. Their invasion had failed. Supreme Commander Krezul faced the difficult task of explaining this unprecedented defeat to the Imperial Council. But on Earth, humanity celebrated their survival, while remaining vigilant, knowing that the war carrier might need to be unleashed again. The Nemesis stood ready, defender of humanity, protector against threats from beyond the stars, a secret weapon that had proven its worth. Maya Foster stood at a viewport looking up at the night sky. The stars seemed different now, no longer just points of light but potential sources of both wonder and danger. She thought of Krezul's final words. This is merely the beginning. She nodded to herself, accepting the challenge. Whatever came next, Earth would be ready. The Nemesis would be ready, and any who threatened humanity would learn the same lesson. As the Drakari never underestimate those who fight to protect their home.